Welcome all as we congregate to the greatest toy line in community, ever growing, ever changing. As we collect and adapt these figures to our own imaginations and embrace the fun, there's much to learn, especially if you're new to Mythics. Hello and welcome to another episode of New to Mythics, episode 41. Joined tonight by Michael Xavier. Welcome, man. Thank you so damn much.
What's going on, dude? I just want to thank you for having me on the show.
Nah.
Would have loved to have done this sooner with you, man. Real excited for tonight.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. And sorry if people could hear that in the background. I've got some Westerns. My father-in-law is like, he's got the volume to 100.
Sorry, we know where the party's at, dude.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we got a Western hoedown going on downstairs. But thank you so much, man. Yeah, we connected at Legion's Con, and I think you said I'd met you last year. I met you the year before.
I did, yeah. I do remember meeting you last year. I think me and Joe were actually we were at Noah's table for a little while. We were holding it
Yes,
down for him so he could
yes.
make some rounds, and that was definitely where I got my first introduction with you.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. But it's really nice to, reconnect at this year's Legion's Con and to see all you guys together was sweet, man. But thank you. You took the time and we talked a few times, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much for that.
It's my pleasure, man. So as you know, nobody else knows this yet. I was supposed to link up with you at that show. I wanted to come to your room and hop on there. Of course, in typical fashion of myself, I completely botched the times. And the funniest part of that story is that my wife actually came up that night to meet me at the pub at the hotel. So we
Yes.
went out to dinner and stuff. And I even told her in advance, I was like, listen, because she brought one of her girlfriends down there and stuff.
Mhm.
I was like, listen, I got to dip out for just a little while. I said, my buddy of mine's doing a show down there, like a live. I said, I'm going to hop on there for a little bit. So while we were at dinner, she actually mentioned to me, she was like, don't you got to go and like
Oh,
do that show? And I was like, yeah. I said, we're good though. I said, he's at that table right over
yeah,
there. I
he's
was
eating
like,
dinner right now.
I can't do the show without him. It's his
Right?
show.
Yeah. When he moves, I'll move.
Yeah, but little did I know I had actually confused the time with the my wife is gonna
That's all
kill me
right.
guys with the time that they were
No
running
problem.
theirs. So
Yeah,
my apologies for that.
you're like, I'm like, no, we did it like an hour ago, 2 hours
Yeah.
ago. But no,
Yeah, no, I got up from the table. I was like, "Hey, dude, what time are we going to do this?" And you were like, that was a little while ago, dude." So
just
I'm
that you
sorry, man.
remembered and offered that meant a lot to me. And I had spoken to you, I think in the lobby, saying like, hey, I don't know how to do this like show. Like, how are we gonna do it? I've never done this kind of format with like people in front of us. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. Like, I've never kind of experienced that or done anything like that. So I was asking you for advice and what to do. And you kind of you calmed me down, and I appreciate that. And it turned out well. So even though you weren't there, you helped me in getting me to calm down a little bit and just be myself. And I just had conversations, and it worked out really well. So thank you.
I'm glad I was able to contribute something positive
You
to
did.
that
You
because
did,
I'm
because I was
like,
freaking out.
dude, I'm like the idiot of the enablers when it comes to
Nah.
any of this tech stuff. I kind of just smile in the background and just chitter chatter and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm glad I was able to help out with that.
you were, man, because I didn't know, like, until we got there, we didn't know like what, like, they offered us a table, like, hey, if you guys want to do your show or whatever, here's the opportunity, here's the time and a table for you. But we didn't know if it was going to be a table like in the hallway, in a we didn't know. So it happened to be in a room with like all kinds of chairs, so people would just sit there and look at you like all the other shows. And Purple Gang, they were like, no problem, this is, they've done it before. But I was
Right.
like, I don't know what to do. So it kind of freaked me out a little bit, but it worked out. Everyone was cool. We got about, I don't know, 15, 20 people, and
Oh,
we
that's
tried to
awesome.
entertain them, and it was fun. We had a good time. So thank you. I
Uh,
appreciate that.
my pleasure, man. But before we get into the meat and potatoes here, I just want to take a second and acknowledge how smooth your intro to your show is. that 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 was, bro. I'm so relaxed now. I'm
Thank
so
you. That's intentional, man. I just want
yeah.
a low key, easy vibe conversation, man. Nothing, you know, nothing to
It
stress about. Everything's cool.
it definitely sets the mood. And then the second thing I want to point out is your fashion is on point today, sir.
You think so?
That is a choice t-shirt that you got on there, my
Man,
man.
I love this T-shirt, man. It's
Actually, it makes me feel like a slacker. I probably should have worn mine for this.
that's how
But you know, I'm up in New Jersey. It's cold out there today, man.
it's cold. Hey, I'm in Michigan, and I was grilling
Barely
outside in
making
the
it.
snow, man. I had my Crocs on, and the snow was getting in through the holes, and
Well, you're
but
hardier. You're true north.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you're
yeah,
like the Starks of
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes,
I'm a little
yes.
more southern than you.
Absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, I love this shirt. Thanks for enabling me to get one.
Looks
I
good, man.
appreciate that. Thank
Looks
you,
real
thank
good.
you, thank you. So let's get this show started, man. I usually ask, well, to preface, I mean, I told you already in the pre-show thing, but I love hearing people's stories about how they were, how they found out about Mythics. I love to hear about, the collecting is when they're kids and stuff. But for me to share real quick, I had a friend that was collecting Mythics for a while, and he kept telling me, "Hey, you know how it is, like." People that don't collect mythics, you kind of want them like, hey, this is an amazing toy line, and a lot of people give you that line like, I've got enough toy lines, or
Yeah.
it's not really my thing. I'm not really, and that was me. I was just kind of throwing out all those, it's not really my thing. I love fantasy and stuff. I love knights, but I've got a lot of toy lines already that I'm collecting. And he's like, okay, it's cool. And then, everyone, he'd bring it up, but, there's a new pre-order coming up, you should check it out. And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'll check it out. I'll check it out. And then we would trade stuff back and forth. And then this guy had snuck me in a Malleus. And I was
That's
like,
how
what
they
is
get
this?
you.
Yeah, it was like wrapped up in some bubble wrap, with the other stuff we traded. And I was like, what is this? And I open it up and I'm like, skeleton. And I knew what it was immediately. I didn't know his name or anything, but I looked at it and I'm like, this is pretty cool, and I started like moving him around a little bit and articulating the jaw. And I'm like, this is pretty damn cool, man. And that just kind of opened the doors. And I just started to really dive into, I went to the Source Horseman and saw all of the huge, catalog of figures that had come before and just really interested me. But I'm appreciative to him. I'm like, F you, and I appreciate you, for getting me into this amazing toy line. F you because my wallet has taken huge hits, but thank you because I've met so many amazing people and have great friends because of this. And I have, this show that I just enjoy doing, talking to people and meeting new folks and making new friends and stuff. So it's really enriched my life. So that's a little bit of my story. But if you would like to start, can you tell us what kind of stuff you collected as a kid?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I was your typical 80s baby. You know, I guess my earliest memories of toys are playing with, the GI Joes,
Yes.
Masters of the Universe. I mean, Motu was
Yes.
really probably like
Huge.
my number one like toys like when I was a kid. Like I just remember, dude, I remember Christmas mornings, and it's some of my oldest memories in general. Christmas mornings and just opening up piles of Motu figures, and I had Castle Grayskull and
Mm.
Snake Mountain, and maybe it's because of my parents took a lot of pictures, or my mom did, and just seeing them, like I still remember pictures, like seeing them piled up on the couch at Christmas time. And my mom used to really, she would set them up for me. She would pose them all, so you get them all like staged
Oh,
out and
she did
everything.
really? That's
She
awesome.
she did, man. It's one of my earliest memories of my mom. And it really started with those, and of course Thundercats and like all your real big like 80s properties. Transformers. I was a big Transformers
It was a
kid.
great time, dude.
It was unsurpassable. I mean, what we were very lucky to grow up during that time. Obviously, toward the end of the '80s, Ninja Turtles became a big thing,
Hmm.
and I mean that's something that I still collect heavily to this day.
Hmm.
It's one of my favorite like independent
properties.
properties that kind of
Yeah.
just kind of gets better with age, better with time. I as an adult, I went back and bought a lot of the older comic books. I own an issue one. It's like my pride and joy. It's like a first print. I love Ninja Turtles, so I grew up very, very, into that.
They've
And
been around, dude. Like people think that the cartoon was kind of the beginning, and it's not. It goes
oh
back.
no, its roots are
I
definitely earlier, and they're more mature too. You
yes, I
know.
remember as a kid. I lived with my grandparents mostly, and my grandpa would take me to the comic shop every once in a while. And I remember seeing an issue at the time. It was like this had to be mid 80s, and it was like a fighting instructional comic book that had each turtle. It was like Leonardo, Donatello, Raphael, and Michael, and they had like their weapons, and it was like a comic book that had, and I was like, whoa, these are pretty cool, man. And I remember reading about them in Comic Scene, and then I got a hold of the graphic novel, which compiled like the first, I don't know, 7 or 8 issues, and it was black and white, and it just blew me away. Like the art,
So
I,
good.
I just remember reading it over and over and over again. You know,
What's interesting about that? We mentioned that like it was it was more mature, but I mean by today's standards, it's very tame. I would say that, but when you go and you compare it to the original cartoon that we got, which was and the Mirage comics had some goofy moments too,
yeah, for
but
sure.
compared to the stuff that we get today, I would say it's very tame. But for back then, it was definitely edgier.
Yes.
But I mean that first issue in particular, just the flow and narration of it
Hmm.
was very, very serious. When you come to realize that like Splinter was actually training them to assassinate the
Yeah.
Shredder. You know what I'm saying? Like that was the original purpose. It's a
Yeah.
lot darker than what you
Yes.
get
Yeah.
in the original cartoon. But I grew up on the original cartoon. So, I was into all those Playmates toys, and I mean
Oh
I
yeah,
spent
me
a
too,
number
dude.
of
Yeah, I'm
birthdays,
not above it.
Christmases.
Yeah, I just remember when it was darker. So it's almost like Batman. So it's like I love the Dark Knight Returns, and I love that dark gritty, but then I like the goofy, Batman 66 and like Super Friends
Yeah,
Batman.
I used to
For
love
me,
catching that on TV. It was with Scooby Doo. When Batman and Robin were with Scooby Doo, it
yeah,
was like, yes, I love
Jinkies.
this
It's
episode.
it's the
Yeah,
Cape Crusaders.
yeah. The
Yeah,
'80s were special, man.
oh man, what a time. But yeah, but for me, I can jump back and forth, and I'm okay. I love it all. You know what I mean? Like same thing with the turtles. I love the pizza and the turtle van and all that stuff. But then I
Yeah,
like the edgier, darker kind of comics too. And I think they went that way too with like the Last Ronin and stuff like that, which I think is
yeah.
cool.
It's a return to form. I mean, so that was a story I know that they had created years ago that just kind of like had never really seen the light of day. And they
Yeah.
went back and they revisited it. And, I'm sure they did some story updates and everything like that. But the original premise for that is much older
Hmm.
than what we got with it.
Yeah. And I think because I think its popularity is due to old timers like us that still love those properties. You see resurgences of Thundercats and Transformers and GI Joe. I mean, classified is huge, and I think
Yeah,
it's a
dude,
lot of it
I
is
had to get
because
out
of
of that.
us, huh?
I said I had to get out of that. I was doing
Did you?
classifieds for a while, but
I just got into it.
well, I got a bunch, man. If you need to make
We'll chat.
like a large yeah like a large purchase, Mythics just took over everything for me, man. I'm a big superhero guy too. Like I
Me
didn't even
too, man.
finish naming the properties. Like that's actually where the Xavier in my name comes from. For those who don't know, Xavier is not my government. I won't reveal what my
I
government
didn't
is
know
here.
that. Yeah, I didn't know.
My
I'm like, that's a cool name, man.
So it comes from my original Instagram account
Okay.
was Uncanny X Man,
Yeah.
and when I first signed up for the Cabal, that's what I was under, and I was in the Cabal as Uncanny X Man, and I was in a couple other toy groups or whatever, and somebody in one of these groups must have just got a bug up their butt or something, and they were like, "Oh, that's not your real name. You must be a scammer." And I'm like, "Bro, I'm not even selling anything. Like I'm not scamming nobody." They must have reported me because
Oh wow.
Facebook froze my account, and they basically told me, "Hey, listen, you need to provide proof that this is like your legal name." And I was like, I'm not gonna do that." And they were like, "Well, then you better change it." So I was like, "Whatever." So I just changed it to Michael Xavier. The
Yeah.
Xavier is for the X and X Man, and It's pretty much stuck with me since. But as anybody in the cabal could tell you, I'm not out there scamming anybody. I've,
Right. Yeah.
countless transactions that have all worked out,
No, you're
very,
good,
very
man.
well.
You're good. No, you're good. So yeah, Masters of the Universe is another toy line that like I just remember as a kid, like this is before the cartoon. Oh man. Holy crap,
I
dude.
still love Motu, dude. Still love
I was
Motu.
not prepared for that.
Shout out Four Horsemen Studios for, it's kind of like their, until the Dragon, that was probably like
Yeah,
their,
yeah, absolutely. But
their
man,
main.
I just it did something to me as a kid, and it's kind of like that, I guess, with Mythics now. But like the merging of the fantasy and the sci-fi, and like anything was possible in the Motu universe. Like, it looked like they were like not cavemen, but looked like they were like, you know, barbarians and stuff. But then they're flying around in these ships like Flash Gordon or something. So it was just cool that they had, it was just an insane world. Like that, what they created was just, it really sparked imaginations, I think, back then.
I think it took the best from the things that interest kids at that time. It was like a combination of like Conan and Dungeons and Dragons meets
Yes,
Star Wars. You know what I'm saying?
yes.
Like what you're gonna have a winning property when you do something like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, boys. I mean, I know I did. Like, I was blown away. Like, I got that Castle Grayskull, and I played the hell out of that thing. It was just they were so much fun, and the figures were fun, and I think that um, Mythics. I hate to say it, but I feel like they owe a lot to Masters of the Universe.
One
Because I mean, I
thousand
guess
percent, yeah, and I think
they're
they recognize that.
yeah,
I think that the studio would agree with that.
yeah.
1,000%, and I think that they show that to us every time they do one of these tributes.
Yes, yeah,
It's like,
absolutely. I mean, they're kind of our age, so they kind of grew up in that same time and realized how damn cool that stuff was.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It totally comes across. And I really want to say that I think it's owed to the Horsemen credit to, I mean, they're really responsible for helping to revive interest in Motu
Yes.
in general. They've really helped bring that property back to life. I don't know if we have, all the current Motu stuff that's in stores now, if they didn't, do what they were doing with the, the 2200X, 2000X and
Yes.
the Motu classics. But the fact that they were able to take those classic designs and bring them into the modern day is like a dream come true for a collector. I still have those early releases that they did. Not a lot of them. I bought them after the fact. It was actually
Mhm.
Mythics that got me to go back and start grabbing some of those
Like,
Motu classics. Yeah,
going backwards, and yeah, that they were part of that toy revolution. I think the Horsemen, with McFarlane and Spawn and all that stuff. I mean, it really reawakened a lot of our passions to collecting, I think, again.
it pulled me back into it
Yeah.
1,000% because you know you I was still collecting a little bit when I was in high school, and it was really a must-have like cherry pick basis. If I
Yes.
happened to be in the Toys R Us and I saw something cool, I'd grab it. I definitely did that with a handful of Spawn figures, not realizing that there was any tie to the Horsemen or whatever. And
Right.
this is before I even knew that they actually existed. What pulled me into being a full-time collector was probably as an adult. If we go back to maybe 2009, 2010, uh, DC Universe Classics.
Yeah, that
Because
was a great line.
yeah, I was familiar with Marvel Legends. I wasn't really collecting at the time. DC Universe Classics, it was those sculpts, and who sculpted those? You know who did those? That's the Horseman, right?
Mhm.
So that was how I really discovered who the studio was. And again, I didn't know any of them like by their names or nothing. I did. You could have said Eric Treadway to me, and I wouldn't have known who you were talking about at that
Mhm.
time. But I did know that Four Horsemen Studios were doing the sculpts for DC Universe Classics, and to me, I'm like, wow, these are like really accurate comic
Mhm.
representations. So I actually started buying those again. That wound up forcing me into like starting to collect Marvel Legends at that time, I started backtracking at those. I was like, wow,
Snowballs.
yeah, I was like, they said toys have really come a long way because I grew up collecting the old Toy Biz stuff.
Yes.
Single jointed, at the elbows, they swivel up and down.
Yeah.
Again, at the knee,
Basic.
nothing crazy, but those were classic toys to me. And I'm like, oh man, these are amazing. Like all this crazy articulation, um, and all that stuff. Basically, kind of like it spoiled me a little bit. I was so enamored with this new crazy articulation that I became a little bit of a self-appointed articulation snob
No,
for a
I am
while.
too, dude. I still am. I mean, it doesn't make or break me, but I appreciate good articulation, and I appreciate now. I'm like, pins. You got pins in your figures? Come on now.
How spoiled are we, right?
Yeah,
They've come a
right.
long way.
And plastic capes too is another thing that I'm like, oh, I hate these damn plastic
I
capes.
like them for posability on a shelf. I like them for certain photos.
Mhm.
Um, I think you'll hear me say this on our podcast a lot. I like options because I think
Yes.
everything has a place and time.
Yes.
So this is like a legit thing for me. I have like full on OCD and certain things bother me a lot. So it is like I'm looking at that photo of Ozza up there, and like
Mhm.
I love as a spirit bender. It's really hard for me to mix like the idea, like the Elf Rangers, like this too, like the plastic hood with the soft goods cape, because the color differentiates.
Mhm.
Like I do feel like there's a time and place for all of that stuff, but this is why I feel like a figure like the Xylernian Guard that wound up coming with both the soft goods
Yes.
tabard and the plastic one. Like, thank you, give me the options, because if I
Yes.
don't need him doing something dynamic and I could just get that tabard in a neutral position, I'll use the
Yes.
plastic one.
Yes.
You know,
No, you have a good point, and I have a perfect example that just popped into my head. My friend Mark showed me off a figure, and I totally forgot about it. It's the Secret Wars Doctor Doom figure from back in the 80s. Now he's got a new design, or he had a new design in the 80s where he had like this technical. I don't know if you remember the Secret Wars
of
line,
course.
but he had like the green chest piece, but he still had this hood. So like he's got no other soft goods, no other robes, but just a hood that goes around his. And I'm like, nah, think about it. That's kind of strange,
I
It's
think
kind of an
back then
odd.
they got away with what they could with a toy. You know what I mean? Like, so one of the things I love the most about the Horsemen, and it comes across in their work, is that they're clearly fans. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying? They're fans who just happen to make toys. They're toy guys, and I
yes,
think that comes across versus, and that's not to say that other toy companies that aren't toy guys don't make fantastic stuff once in a while. I think they listen to fan feedback sometimes and they adjust, but at the end of the day, most places are a business first.
mm-hmm.
And if something can, increase the profits, they'll give it to us. But I think for a long time it was really just about, maximize the profits. What can they give
100%.
us?
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think that's evident versus you can tell, and this is why Mythic Legions are what they are. This is when we talk about it later. It's kind of what helped pulled me into it. Um, Dude, these guys just want to make the best toy
yes,
possible. They can charge so, and I'm comfortable saying this because I don't think they're gonna take it and abuse it. Like they could charge so much more for these figures than they do. At the end of
yeah,
the day, I believe they charge just what they need to, and
yes,
it's they're not greedy. It's proved to be very successful for them. They've clearly gone and reinvested what we've given to them into the line. As again, we talk about it on the podcast. What we get with a Mythic Legion that's revealed today is light years beyond what we were getting just a few years ago.
light
And
years, absolutely.
it's like everything since Aether is they just keep, and we thought like that was like, whoa, look what there's so
Mhm.
much new tooling, and it's like that was just the tip of the iceberg. It wasn't even
Oh yeah,
scratching it. We got
and
so much more now.
it's a great time to be a new fan because yes, you've got the older stuff, and a lot of people that have been around has seen the older stuff. They're like, yes, this stuff is amazing, but what's coming out now, or what's been coming out, like these new figure obscuras are amazing. The Frankenstein's creature, and you know um Monkey King. I mean, they're no offense to the past stuff, but they're just blowing away in my mind a lot of the older figures just by articulation and head sculpt.
No,
And
that's fair, dude. And I think anybody would agree with you. I don't think there's anything offensive at all about what you said. I think it's expected as a line
mhm,
becomes more successful. Like they're going to improve it, and they could just continue to recycle and give us the same old stuff. They did it, I think, more often in the beginning because they had to. The
right.
line was in its infancy, and I really think once it started blowing up, um, they knew what they had there, and I think also once like the third parties got a hold of it, and they saw that, and they were like, you know what, this is it's like reciprocating, like it's
Mhm,
it's it's creating more sales for us. People are buying bodies just to put other heads on them,
mhm.
and the fact that I think they turned around and they could have tried to shut a lot of that down, and they really just embraced it, and
Yes,
I think it's really contributed to their success. They
absolutely. Yeah.
fully embrace the community. It's kind of become for me personally, whereas like originally, like you collected for the toys, right? Um, the toys have almost become secondary for a lot of us, right? Like
No,
it's really the community.
I was telling a friend recently. I had an amazing time at Legion's Con. Yeah, I got sick like a lot of other people, but I was looking at my phone on the pictures, and I didn't have hardly any pictures of figures. It was like 100 pictures of friends, and I was like, oh shoot, I've got to go online and get pictures of the dragon because I might have taken one picture of it, and it's not a slight against the studio. I mean, I adore their stuff. That's my number one line, and I love the people that work there and create every day. But I just had such a great time re-meeting friends and taking selfies with people and friends and saying hi and hugs and all that stuff that I totally forgot about, taking pictures of the figures. So
But
that
how
that's a
special was that
testimony.
to be able to experience that reveal with your friends, right?
It's
Like
yeah, it's
that's what was cool for me, man. Like when they wheeled
absolutely.
that thing out and I look, oh, and I got Joe here, I got Wyatt right next to me. I'm looking for Eric, and Noah's on the other side of the room and my eyes are darting to him. And literally, dude, like a couple hundred other people that I know very personally, and I could see their face. And these are conversations we've had for the
Yeah.
last few years talking about this and waiting for it, and like we were all here together, man. Like
Yeah.
this is cool. They're all a good time. This past Legion's Con was just
Man.
such, and G-Con, what a special thing
Yeah.
to be a part of.
Absolutely. I got a picture here of
Ah,
the
awesome.
enablers right there. I love that, man. I
And
love.
Mr. Derby,
Yeah,
Dennis,
Dennis is making a little appearance back there.
photobomb, yes.
Yeah, I love that. But
We,
no,
we joke about that all the time because he does not listen to podcasts. So anytime we mention him on the show, we're like, Dennis, we know you're not listening, but
right?
we love you, buddy.
That's all right. It's shouted out into the universe, man. I'm sure he feels that love. But man, how many friendships have been just created because of this toy line is unbelievable. The community,
It
I
was
just
um it was an early interaction that I had in the Cabal that really, and it's funny because neither of these guys are in the Cabal or active today. But it was a couple early interactions that I had where I realized like this isn't the same type of toxic
mm,
Facebook toy groups that you typically see. So when I first got into I don't want to jump ahead of anything, but when I first got in, I was a few waves behind, and I was trying to go back and kind of do whatever I can, hustle and buy
mhm,
figures that were currently available at Big Bad, and if that meant like breaking down certain figures and selling parts on eBay, because I
right.
realized that the customizing community was huge. So that's what I was doing, man, and I did that for a few weeks, and I wanted to actually build my own custom, and I put like a want to trade for or want to buy feeler out in the
Mhm,
Cabal, and I got a response on there, and the dude was like, "I got you, man, no problem." So I messaged him on the side. I'm like, "What do I owe you?" And he was like, "Nothing. Just give me your address. I'll just send it to you." And I was like, "What?"
you're like,
Like,
say
no,
what?
yeah, yeah. And I'm like, "How about all right? Can at least let me know what the shipping is? Like, thank you so much. It's very
Yeah.
kind of you." And he's like, "Nah, no big deal." and he sent me exactly what I needed. It was nothing crazy, but it was just the gesture. I never met nobody that really, like in a tour
Right.
group, that really did that before.
Like
And
you're giving me this for free?
yeah,
Like
and the thing was, it wasn't
it's
an isolated incident. It happened again. And actually, I got this. So at the time, we're all spoiled now. You know, we've had, reinforcements multiple times. The Barbarian
right.
Builder's been released several times.
Yeah.
So these earpieces, the the like these
Hmm.
dragon ears, we've gotten them on a lot of figures now. But when I got into the line, they were a lot more rare. You know,
Hmm.
I really wanted that Rhaegor look, and this is like an early custom of mine that I did. So I wanted these, and dude, I could have went on eBay. They were like $30 a pop. You know, and
Yeah.
again, I put out a feeler in the cabal, and Steve McCann. Steve McCann was
Yeah.
like, I
Yeah.
got him, buddy. I'll send
Yeah.
him to, and he's not active really anymore.
Yeah. I
Um,
remember him. Yeah, he was around when I jumped in. He was around.
Super cool guy. He's like, I got you, man. He mailed them to me, and that was the second time that somebody went and did that and wouldn't accept any, any kind of money or
Hmm.
nothing. And I was like, all right, so this is what this is.
Hmm.
Now I know, bro. I went to eBay, and I have no shame saying this to anybody. You know what I mean? Like I went, took whatever, like the handful of listings that I had down off of there, and never sold on eBay again
Right.
with
Yeah.
Mythics, man. At that point, I became really only sell on an as needed basis.
Hmm.
Um, Made a lot of friends by just kind of trying to pay that forward, and
Yes.
I've sent countless parts out in the mail to other people, and you see it. You see a lot of people that do that, and that's kind of what makes the community function and go around. It was those two interactions that I had in the beginning that really kind of like set the stage for that and made me realize this is a different animal. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
The
I
Mythic
think,
Legions community is completely different.
and it kind of makes you want to be like that. Like
Absolutely.
it kind of wakes you up. Like, man, like just today, like an hour ago, my friend Jose Torres sent me a Christmas present.
I know
It's
Jose.
yeah,
So
Jose.
Jose bought, and actually I feel terrible about this. So earlier this year I went and I started selling a bunch of extras that I had. I was taking the family to Disney in October.
I remember
Uh,
that. Yeah, I remember you
I wasn't
talking
trying to rip nobody off, man, but I went market price. It was one of my few market price
about.
sales that I had to do. He bought a faunus from me. Unbeknownst to me, a couple months later, they were going to do the Mysteries of Mythos.
Ah,
I
shoot.
never in a million years would have sold
Yeah,
a faunus for market price if I would have known that was going to happen. But it was to be said. But I saw
you
him at
didn't know,
Legion's
man.
Con. He was a gentleman. I was very happy to see his face. Um, just
Yeah, he's a
that
great
happens
dude.
sometimes. You
Yeah,
don't know what the studio is going to do at any given moment,
dude,
man.
you have no idea. Like they've got secrets within secrets, and they love it. I love the surprises, man. But yeah, he sent me his one of his swigs that I think he did for the 1,000 swigs. He just sent it, and here you go, like happy holidays. I was just like, dude, thank you.
Do you have it at the ready? Like, can you hold it for the camera, or
I
is it no,
think
not within
she's
arm's reach?
I think she's downstairs. I didn't bring her up yet. Dang it, I should have. I'll post her to the comments, and I'll send you a picture after. But
Okay.
yeah, I just got her. I was getting ready to grill, and he had sent it to me a few weeks ago, and it just got there. And he sent me a message. He goes, "Your package is here," and I'm like, "Oh shoot, okay." You
That's
knew
cool.
before I knew, and so I went outside and grabbed it and opened it, and I was just like, "Dude!" And then I framed it while I was grilling and getting ready to talk to you. So I'm like doing all kinds of, but shout out to Jose, man. That meant a lot. But this community, I like you said, there's countless times where, like Steve McCann, also he sold me an Iron Knight, and I have her on one of what yeah I'm looking at her right now, but like for way cheaper than eBay, like and that leads to one of my questions I was just about to ask you is, um, he sold her at a fair price, which is not the eBay price, and
Right.
that meant a lot to me that he did that. But my question to you is, when you first started collecting mythics, what was did you have a focus? Like with me, I do female mythics. Like it's just something that I started, and I have all of the females now, so I kind of branched and did and do other, a lot of other factions and creatures and knights and all that. But did you have a focus?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start back at the beginning. I guess we'll do the full on like
We could do that.
mythics
Yeah, wherever. I'm sorry.
origin story. So I'm knee deep in DC Universe classics, Marvel Legends. I'm a full time collector at the time the original Kickstarter goes live, but
Hmm.
at the same time I'm also, what did I say, a self appointed articulation snob, right? So here I see this Kickstarter for this gorgeous line. I'm a big time fantasy dude, bro. Like
Yes, me
just
too.
am. Always was super into Lord of the Rings,
Hmm.
D&D, all that stuff. I'm like, wow, this looks like a dream come true for me. But I go and I see that the Four Horsemen are doing it. I now know who they are because DC Universe Classics and all that. And I'm
Hmm.
just like, so I'm seeing these 1.0s, and the main thing that stopped me, it wasn't even a single joints at the elbows and knees. Is me looking at them, I'm like, oh, there's no torso cut. Like to me,
Hmm.
I'm thinking they're more gonna be like statues, right? And I'm like, I don't really need a knight to be super articulated, but I'm like, I at least want to be able to move like that
Right.
torso around a little bit. And I didn't do it, even though I fully acknowledged like these were just gorgeous like fantasy figures, like how knights, like what the doesn't get any better than that. I thought the orcs looked amazing. Like I remember like
Yes.
Urzok, like super cool. Um, I didn't get in on it, and just over the next couple years, I just remember seeing them. I'm like, ah, it's a shame that they're more like statues. Completely ignorant. Never held one in my hand. Um, Broke my neck anytime somebody would post a picture of them. I did have a friend from another toy group, my buddy Adrian, and I remember he was kind of like trying to put everybody onto them, like we were
Hmm.
talking about earlier, like, oh no, you
Hmm.
got to check them out. And I'm like, nah, I'm good, bro.
I'm all right.
It's not.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
they're cool, but
if they update the articulation,
yeah,
maybe, but
yeah. I
I
need the
still
ab
couldn't help
crunch.
but break my neck every time I looked at them. Like they really are uh, drop dead gorgeous. Um, Fast forward a couple years, now we're getting into 2020, so they've already had the Kickstarter, Advent of Decay. They've gone, Coliseum, Covenant of Shadow. I mean, they've had quite a few waves. I've seen a lot of this stuff advertised. And I'm kind of just sitting there. I got really into. I was like on a retro gaming kick for a while,
Hmm.
so I was playing a lot of Legend of Zelda, and I went and I bought
Oh, I
all
love that
those
game.
Figma links, right?
That music. Oh.
Yeah, I love it. It's like one of like the best properties, right? So I went and I bought all those Figma links that they
Hmm.
released, and
I remember those.
you know what? I was like, I need some, and all they made was Link. I was like, I
Hmm.
need some skeletons and stuff. I'm like, you know what? I might have to finally bite the bullet and pick up a few of these Mythic Legions. I don't need them to do anything crazy. I kind of just need some like background skeletons for some
Yeah.
pictures with Link, and we'll do some dungeon stuff, and I'll be good with that. So I go to the website. I have no idea how this pre-order stuff works or what the process is for buying a Mythic Legion. I'm like, I've never seen them in a Target or like a Walmart or anything like that. So, obviously I'm hitting Big Bad Toy Store, and I'm like, you know what? I go to the website and I'm like, pre-order. What does that mean? And it was All Star 3 was the current pre-order.
Hmm.
Aether had ended, I don't know how long before that. It wasn't a ridiculous amount of time. But I remember looking at some of those figures and thinking like, damn, I can't order these no more. And then going to Big Bad Toy Store. And I'm like, okay, I can still pre-order these here. So I went and I did my first order from the studio was an All Star 3 order. And I ordered a Malleus. I ordered a Baron Voligar, and I ordered, who else did I get from that wave? I ordered one more from that wave. It wasn't the demon. It wasn't Zazar. It's eluding me at the moment.
Hmm.
But I ordered those thinking like, all right, they'll be here in a little while, and then come to find out that those pre-orders take months to a year,
Yeah.
right? So now I'm
Damn
like,
it.
I'm like, I can't wait for this stuff.
They teach
So
us patience.
yeah, because I'm looking at the prices for the pre-orders versus the prices of what you get at the retailer, and I'm
Mm.
like, man, they're so much cheaper through the website. But I'm like, all right, I didn't want to go and pay 40, $50 for a skeleton and a goblin.
Right.
But I'm like, you know what? I really wanted to take these link pictures. So I went on there, and first figures I ordered had in hand. I ordered 3 Goblin Legion builders, which are the basic bottom of the barrel like
Mm.
Legion builder. No extra paint apps or nothing. And I ordered the skeleton soldier, the 2.0 body. I ordered
Oh,
those.
I love that figure, dude.
Oh,
I
so I didn't know what it came with, dude.
Yeah.
So this figure comes in, and I opened them both. And first of all, like even your basic Goblin Legion builder, I'm like, oh damn, I'm like display options galore. I was like, look
Yes.
at these. It's got the big helmet head. I was like,
Mm,
that was cool. I was like, it's got the regular head. I was like, these, and I thought I thought those paint apps were really nice.
right.
Really having no idea the amount of detail that you would get even on a regular figure. And
Right.
then I crack open the skeleton, and I'm like, what? I'm like, you can make this a man or a woman
Yeah.
skeleton.
Yeah. I know. I love that.
I was like, this is insane.
I just
So that was
go
the
ahead. I'm
hook I
sorry.
needed, dude.
I was just looking for my. I got the new Undead of
A Viking
Viking,
fell.
and I turned it kind of as an ode to the old skeleton soldier. I turned it into a female. I used Thrace's chest piece
Cool.
and turned it into a female undead. You know, like this, like the skeleton soldier. But
That's a
yeah,
smooth
so many
idea.
options, dude. I mean, once you crack one open and see what it can do and the posing and the detail, I mean, oh my god, you know?
So I'm holding this figure in my hand, dude, and I'm looking at those details that you're mentioning, and the plastic just feels
Mhm.
different at this point. Now I'm somebody I told you I'm collecting, these Marvels, DC. I'm a big Predator guy, so like I have a bunch of
Okay.
NECA Predators, and I'm like, there's something about the way this Mythic Legion's like it feels different. It just feels like a really high quality figure. So now they've kind of pulled me in with these couple. So where do you think I go next? I go to YouTube and I start watching every single review that I could
Yes.
watch. So I'm watching Darius, the amazing.
Oh
I'm
man.
watching his reviews, and I'm like, now I know him as a collector, of pretty much everything else, and he's a big posing guy, right? So
Yes.
now I'm watching him pose these 1.0 bodies, which at this point I don't own a 1.0 yet. And I'm like, I was crazy. I was ignorant. Forget what I said about limited
Right.
articulation. If the amazing could pose these things, we could pose them. Like they look good. He had them in these crazy dynamic poses with the
He
swords
makes it
and
look so easy, man.
yeah, I was like, all right. I was like, I guess I collect mythic legions
But
now.
it's
So
proof that it can do it.
yeah, exactly. That was really all I needed to see, and I went same thing. I went right back to the retailer. The retailer I was familiar with at the time was Big Bad Toy Store. Now I like to, I'm still grateful for them. I like to support some of the smaller shops that have popped up.
Yes.
I've done my last few retailer waves. I've gone through David Carbolka, Horsehead
Mhm.
Toys. Um, I just like to see one of us. It was a guy who was like a
Yes.
fan that went and did it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I do the
Um,
same thing. I do the same thing.
but I went to Big Bad Toy Store and the amount of stock that they had at the time was just it was just incredible. So Siege of Bjorngar and Wasteland were probably like the two most recent waves,
Mhm.
and all that stuff was still there. And then there was a bunch of Advent of the Case stuff that they still had for pre-order. I guess they were shorted their original orders. And I remember the in the cabal at the time, everybody's like, they've owed that stock for a long time. They're never gonna get it. Well, down the road they wind up getting it, so I was able to get a bunch of that stuff too. But I pretty much just cleaned them out with whatever I had. I put in a massive couple of orders at Big Bad Toy Store that just
Mhm.
started like backfill. My first in stock sale was the Wasteland and Siege one. I grabbed a Torgan, I grabbed Chronaw, I grabbed Thump. I mean, uh, pretty Faustia, just
Mhm.
whatever I could get my hands on for those four horsemen prices. Um, and really, like, so you asked me your original question, like what my focus was. My original focus was just to get background characters for Legend of Zelda, and now I find myself grabbing whatever I can. And I literally I had no Facebook account. I only jumped on Facebook so I could join the cabal. Again, I
Mhm.
had heard Darius talk about it on his YouTube channel. And somewhere in the cabal is a very old comment of mine where I said, I'm just going to cherry pick the ones that I really like. Had no idea that I would fall so in love with the lore. Started
Yes.
reading the bios. And to me, I was like, because initially I was like, I got nothing invested in here. Like, okay, cool. They have little biographies. To me, this isn't this isn't a named character. This is just a background character for this photo. And once I started reading the bios, I was so pulled in, man. Just fell in love. I was like, wow, this is
Yeah.
just a well written story. It's very cool. And I eventually became a completionist, and I had to have it all. So I went
You
back
just
and I
decided I want everything. I love it all. I need it all.
yeah, I went
So you
back
have
and
everything.
I do. To up to
That's
date,
freaking
I am
rad, dude.
complete on the line.
That's an accomplishment, man. That's
Yeah.
freaking awesome.
It took a while. It definitely wasn't an overnight thing, but it introduced me to a lot of people in the group. I was able to make a lot of friendships out of that, and it was cool.
Yeah, I love like the trading aspect, or like buying and selling and stuff. I've had newer friends be like, "Well, do you know this guy?" And I'm like, "No, but he's in the community, so he's good. Until he does me wrong, he's good." So I trust people that are in our community, and it's always been, sometimes things might ship a little slower than I like, but you know, it is what it is. We get busy, but I just love, just the trading. People like, well, do you want to sell it? And I'm like, I would rather trade. I think it's funner to trade stuff.
Yeah.
That way you're not getting tied into like the money, and I'm not offending you by offering this much or that much. But I love the community for being able to, because I people that are starting or that are new to Mythics, I'm like, reach out to the community. Like if you're looking for this figure or that figure, Nate, throw out a price like, hey, I can afford this for Xylona. Does anyone have one? Hey, you never know. Throw it out there, and then like you said, you can make friends, and open communication with people, and meet people that way too.
Yeah. So one of my very first trade in the Cabal, Ryan Willard. He does a
Mhm.
lot of sales today. He'll put up like fodder sales. Have a bunch of shields up there, a bunch of different weapons. Specific armor and stuff. But my first trade in the Cabal, um, I had a second Vorgus that I got. I traded a Mesco, Keanu Reeves. What was that figure? Uh,
Constantine,
John Wick.
John
It was a
Wick.
John Wick. So it was a buddy of mine that I know in person, like my buddy Robbie. He's local to me.
Hmm.
He had a Vorgus. He had a couple Mythic Legions, but he wasn't like a full in collector. And he was looking for that Mezco. So I traded that to him. I had a second Vorgus. Come to talk to Ryan Willard in the Cabal, he had an Orn. This is how I got my Orn Steelhide. Neither one of us had ever traded with anybody in the group. We didn't have no
Hmm.
references. He'll tell you the story the same exact way, man. We were both super, super nervous about it.
Right.
Um, it wasn't. It was a question of you were at an impasse. One of us had to ship first. Neither one of us had
Yes.
any references.
Right.
We're
It's
both
like,
trading
who's doing it
$100.
first? Come on, man.
Yeah, we're both trading
Here
$100
we
plus
go.
figures, and we both just kind of took the leap, man. And it really
Yeah.
set the tone for the way I do transactions in the Cabal. And listen, that's not to say anybody who is new to Mythics and listening to this should not take what we're saying and say, "Oh, someone's in the Cabal, where it's
Right.
guaranteed to be okay."
Right.
Listen, scum creeps into everything.
Yes. Yes.
Somebody can, and as the community grows, it's inevitable that eventually somebody's going to do the wrong thing at some point.
Hmm.
I would be a liar if I said that I've never seen somebody get scumbagged.
Right.
It is very rare in the Cabal. I think
Yes.
because the studio has a direct hand in it, they are an active presence there. They talk to us. They're our friends. People do tend to be on their best behavior. You don't. I'll put it to you this way: if you are new to Mythic Legions, you don't want to get uh, you don't want to get kicked out of the Cabal because that's kind of
No.
like the main place to be, man. That's
Right.
like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like you have direct one-on-one communication with the
Yes.
studio.
Your
So
reputation is a
right,
real
it's
thing
kind of
there.
everything, and that's not throwing shade at anybody who has, who isn't there or had to leave or got kicked for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't get involved with that type of stuff,
Hmm.
but you want to put your best foot forward. The studio is directly involved there. If you got a question, how many other like companies are run where you could like message like the head honchos and be like, hey, can you explain something about this,
None.
and they get right back to you.
Zero. Yeah.
Within
Zero.
within a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then they'll have a hamburger and a beer with you at the con. You know,
Exactly. I was just talking to Cornboy about that, and I'm like,
yeah,
that you guys are so accessible. Like he reached out to me last summer and said, hey, I just started doing the show, and he's like, hey, can I get a t-shirt? And I almost fell out of my
how cool is
chair.
that?
Like Cornboy, like knows, even heard of my show or supporting it, and he messaged me like out of the blue. You know
That's
what
a
I mean?
trip.
Like, I was just like, ugh, and I'm trying to tell my girlfriend. She's like, oh, okay, that's cool. I'm like,
Yeah,
no, 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 no. You don't understand. This
because
is
at the day
CD.
we fanboy, right? Like,
Yeah. I'm like, CB. It's never mind. But
I know
you
I
know,
still get all tongue tied and stuff when I'm around
I
those
do.
guys and get all
Yeah,
nervous and stuff.
yeah.
And
I'm
I've
just
spoken to
huge
them tons
fans.
of time at the shows at this
So
point.
I want to ask two. I got two questions that came to mind. Um, talking going backwards a little bit, you were talking about lore, and I think with you, um, you obviously have an imagination, or the lore kind of triggers your imagination
Yeah.
because I know you're into Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm seeing DM, and I'm thinking the whole time, DM, what does that mean? Dungeon Master.
Oh, do you know what that is? So I should explain to anybody watching this. That's so we're on StreamYard right now is what we're recording this on. So when me and the enablers do our show, we record on StreamYard, and then when we actually play, we have our own campaign, and I'm the DM for the campaign. So that's why that says DM. I should
That
have
I was
changed it
like,
before I
what does
came
that
in
mean? And then
here.
I'm like, Dungeon Master, because I listen to your show, so I know that you're Dungeon Master. So
That's so funny. So
um
we don't have a video element to our podcast. It's an audio thing only. So
yeah,
these things that say DM and the other guys
that
they'll
was your
change it on a daily.
default.
Yeah, that was
No, that's
see.
cool. It took me a little bit to figure out. I'm like, what is this? Like Demetrius? What does that mean? What's and then I'm like, Dungeon Master. That's
That's so
right.
funny.
So how
And I didn't even
how
see that till you said it just now.
how important is lore to you, being someone that is so imaginative? I mean, if being a dungeon master, like I my opinion is that dungeon masters have to have a good imagination. Someone shot me down not too long ago, like, no, you don't really need that. But I'm like, I disagree. Like, I feel like imagination, like you have to basically paint a world for the people that are playing to be in that world. Like, you're setting it up, like you're creating the matrix, and then they're stepping in. If you're not selling it to them, then it doesn't feel. That's just my opinion. I haven't played it since
Oh, I think
the
you're spot
80s.
on. And I think it applies directly to what we're talking about, which is the toy line. So when I say that I got into this line and I wasn't invested in the lore, and then really I just said it was the lore
Mhm.
that pulled me in. It's a rich story. Um, if I don't feel invested in these characters, what incentive do I have to keep buying members of these factions if I don't think, they look cool or something like that?
Mhm.
Like even if I'm not too big on a character's specific appearance, which may rarely happen, there may be something about that character's lore that I'm like, that's kind of rad.
Right.
So when you're asking me how important it is to me, it's super important. I credit the lore for really pulling me into the line,
Mhm.
you know, full force. So as a DM, so I'm a DM out of necessity right now. I love to play the game, man, and I love being a player character in it as well. The hardest thing about the game is, finding somebody to be a DM for your group, getting schedules to match up, and unfortunately,
Mhm.
like a lot of my local games kind of like fell apart. So, I talk to my boys, the enablers, all the time. And one of the things I really wanted to do is, kind of just as like a group exercise, like
Mhm.
I don't know, call it what you want. If it was a corporate world, you'd call it like team building, right? I'm like, I
Right.
really want to play
I think it's
Dungeons
a
and
great idea.
want to play D&D with my friends,
Yeah.
So I'll volunteer, I'll be the DM, and I'll run a pre-written module, but I don't want to run it cookie cutter,
Mhm.
I'm going to run it the way it's supposed to be run, but I'm going to homebrew a bunch of my own stuff in there too. And, for a lot of those guys, um, they've either played it very little or haven't played it in a very, very long time, and the game's changed over time.
Mhm.
And I'm of the mindset that D&D is a game where you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. So if
Mhm.
all you want to do is go through the motions and roll the dice and write your numbers down, there's nothing wrong with that. Enjoy the game the way that you want to enjoy it. But there's so much that can be brought out of the game for you if you put that into it. And how
Mhm.
can I expect that out of my players if I'm not doing the same?
Right.
you know so I really try to just encourage them to give me your backstories because I
Mhm.
want to write. It might not be part of the module, but I'll find a way to intertwine it into the story that we're running.
And
Like
that's where imagination kicks in.
yeah, I want D&D. It's community storytelling, right? it's
Mhm.
it's not the DM game, it's everybody's game.
Yeah.
So how do I get everybody to participate the same is I got to participate as well. I can't
Hmm.
just go through the motions,
Right.
you know?
You
So,
got to paint that world.
yeah, lore is very important. Imagination is very important. I don't do the best accents, but for you guys, I'll try, you know? I'll
Right.
try. And if it gets a
Yeah.
smile or a laugh out of you
Yeah.
when you hear somebody new, or, I love when they meet a new character and they can tell it's a different character. My voice sounds like me. I sound like Mike doing an impression of somebody else.
Yeah.
But when you could tell it's a different character because the personalities changed,
Hmm.
like that's
Yeah.
cool to me.
That's why I think in my mind being a DM is a tough. I think a lot of people, you got to be someone special. I think to even attempt that, because you're wearing a lot of hats and painting, this amazing picture and trying to basically enthrall the people that you're talking to and walking them through this world.
It's
Um,
hard, man.
it's not an easy.
It's difficult because you have more homework than anybody. Your average player can kind of show up that day. If they're a spellcaster, maybe they show up 5-10 minutes earlier to kind of like pick their spells for the day or something like that, or maybe they got to level up and figure out their health points or something. But as a DM, you really got to have not just your scenarios ready to go, but you have to have scenarios to back up scenarios to back
Right.
up scenarios because any
People
DM
are
will
gonna
tell you your
people.
players almost never do
Yeah,
what
you
you think
never.
they're going to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, people are gonna people. You don't know what their reaction is gonna, but that also maybe keeps you engaged as well because
It
you're not
does.
sure if they're gonna zig or zag. You don't know.
And you have to want to do it. You have to be excited about that kind of stuff. Like I said, if you kind of just, I don't think DMing is for anybody who kind of just wants to go through the motions because you're gonna have a miserable time. Ultimately, one of your players is gonna do something that you didn't prepare for, and you're gonna be like, oh, all right, now what? You know,
Yeah.
you gotta have to kind of like to improv a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Those interactions are just fun, and
Yeah.
it
Because you're
to
you're
me
playing
it's playing pretend.
you're playing every other character except for the actual people. So you're
Sure.
you're you're doing everything else.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and
But
you're giving them a springboard to jump off of it. The way I look at it, it's like I don't know, man. You ever play like baseball or softball with your kid or something
mhm.
like that, and you're tossing them over there and you're not trying to strike them out, but you're also not trying to make it super easy for them, but
Right.
you want them to kind of hit the ball and run with it, man.
Yes.
Like once they start having fun with the game, it takes on a life of its own. And now
Mhm.
we're rolling dice. Now
Right.
we're playing D&D. So
Right.
for playing with my friends here, like it was very important to me to really kind of like hook them
Hmm.
in and for them to have a good time with it. Is
Right.
for me it was less about because again, it's not the DM versus your players and stuff. It's let's have a good time together. Like let's tell a cool story.
Right.
The coolest thing I loved about being a kid, it's why I collect action figures to this day. It's playing pretend, man. Like having an imagination. I don't. It's not like I'm sitting there with my action figures and I'm like pew pew pew. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
when I shoot a photo, when I take a picture, there is a story element that's unfolding in my mind.
That's my
I
next question.
I've said
Yeah.
this before, dude. I usually don't even know what I'm gonna take on Monday mornings. I come up to my collector room, I look around, and this is gonna make me sound crazy. Don't lock me up. I see what figure's speaking to me that day.
Mhm.
Who do I feel inspired to take a
No,
photo
I
of
I
today?
totally get that. Like I
Okay.
love every single mythic. I probably have about, I don't know, maybe 100 something right here in my room that's opened and posed or just standing vanilla. But I love every one. But every time I look, my eye will I love them all, but my eye will, oh look, there's the elf ranger, the dark elf ranger. Or my eye will go to, oh, there's Sir Gerard. It's like, and then you think, and I'm not a photographer at all. Like you are, your stuff is amazing. And we could do a whole
Thank you,
show
man.
on your photography. But like when I look at a figure, I start thinking, what could I throw them in? What kind of situation, And I think that's another imagination thing, and I think that's that way for you too as well.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I go through my room. I see what inspires me that day. It's almost like one of them is jumping out, like, "Hey, shoot me today, shoot me today," and I'm
Mm,
like, all right, cool. So, I grabbed that. I start looking around because to me, like collecting dio pieces was just as important as getting the figures.
Hmm.
So I bought a bunch of that stuff over the years, and it's like, all right, well, what can I throw together? And it's almost a challenge, like a personal challenge too, to how do I make these same pieces that I've shot so many times look different, or like, you know, like completely different atmosphere or environment. And I just try to put them together, and hopefully I can come up with something that I like and I'm satisfied with that day. I can tear every photo I've ever taken apart and tell you what I hate about it, what I love about
Hmm.
it, if I am satisfied with it. This one seemed to do pretty well. It was not one of my favorites at the end of the day. I went with like a pensive Krotos
Yes,
because
he has that pensiveness.
I like
I
that.
love that.
I like making my guys look like they're thinking too hard. The guys make fun of me
Yeah,
all the time for that. They're like, dude, nobody poses a character in thought like you do.
I
Self articulation snob, and I'm posting them in deep thought
yeah,
all the
no,
time.
I love that. Like I am the same. Like I did a picture and I was kind of proud of it. Like I did one where it's like the purple armory night and Thalen were kind of like trudging through some snow and I had some it had just snowed outside.
Mhm.
And I love pictures that are not necessarily, don't get me wrong, D amazing, like his action pose and stuff. But sometimes I like just like a static, a moment, like a frame of just that character. These figures are so freaking amazing. They don't need to do something amazing all the time. So it's great to see like Crotus, like I never would have thought, like he doesn't need to hold a battle axe and a shield and to be cool. Like these figures look great without, and a lot of my figures don't have anything in their hand. They look great without anything. So I
Sometimes I
love
think it's more
pictures like that.
challenging, Greg, to just shoot them naturally,
Yes.
right? And I didn't mean to cut you off there,
No.
but I'm fully on agreeing with you. You know, one of the hardest things to do, I think, in a picture of a toy, because it's soulless, right? It's a piece of plastic.
Yes.
How do you make a piece of plastic look like it's got emotion to it? And that to me, it's the colors, it's the environment, it's the staging, it's the posing, it's all of that. This is one of the few pictures here that I actually took that I did not hate at the end
I
of it.
adore it. I love this.
This has I took this on a really like deep reflection day for myself.
Mhm.
I won't go into detail, dude, but I had gotten some really bad news, and for me, it was just trying to find some tranquility
Yeah.
and some inner peace that morning. And when I went upstairs, and I have Artemis almost posed like that, uh, with Alder on my shelf right there. It's not in that environment or anything like that, but I saw her, and this was like the beginning of fall, so the leaves are
Hmm.
starting to turn. Um, and I was just like, you know what? This We need to appreciate life every day. You know what I mean? And the beauty
Absolutely.
of it. So I really just wanted to, and I was hoping it would come across, and I really just wanted to make something that I thought was not epic, but just pretty. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Peaceful. Um, and that's what I came up with. And I remember after I took that, I was like, I don't care if nobody likes this photo. I loved this one.
I do
Like
too,
it was
man. I
special
mean,
to me.
I adore it. It's just a moment of peace, and it's like a painting.
Thank you.
I don't know. I think it's amazing. That's probably my favorite one that I've seen of yours. I went through a bunch, and I didn't want to go through 100 and show 100 people.
No, please do, please do.
Look
Oh,
up
stop.
your yeah. Stop. Keep going. Look up, do a search of Michael Xavier on Facebook in the Cabal, and you'll see some amazing um, photography there.
I appreciate that, bro. Thank you.
No, so my question was, before I distracted myself, was what when did the customizing and the photography, when did that kick in for you?
So it's funny. Like I'll say this, and the guys will say that I say this to them often. I don't really consider myself a customizer. I have customs. I have certainly painted figure parts. It really is a last resort for me. If if the line has a specific part that's available in a certain color, I
Hmm.
will track down that part before I paint something that color.
Hmm.
If I can simply pop and swap and call it a day without painting anything, I'll do it every single time. I appreciate a factory paint job. I certainly don't have the skills as, my friends in the Mythic Enablers do. Noah, Joe, Eric. I mean, those guys are really just like, you know, top notch when it comes to that stuff.
Absolutely.
Um, but I have dibbled and dabbled. I have painted stuff that I am satisfied with. But again, for me, it's at the bare minimum. And for the most part, I mean, I've got friends in this group that have hundreds of customs. You know what I'm saying? I don't have anything near that. I have, you know, somewhere in the double digits, but it's like the low double digits of things that I've painted up or bought painted from other people.
Hmm.
I do like buying from my friends head sculpts that are
Hmm.
already painted. I have some very very nice prized possessions from all of them that
Absolutely.
I like to army build, right? So I'll put those on there just to get some variation on the shelf.
Hmm.
I like having my knights holding their helmets and having unique heads on
I
there.
love that too. Yeah, I love seeing that. I love when people do that.
The photography portion goes back to, oh man, I was dating my wife at the time, and I really just wanted a way to play with my action figures, and I kind of just started like taking pictures on my phone, and they were horrible. They were absolutely terrible,
You got to start
and
somewhere, man.
like I didn't even have an Instagram at the time. And then eventually, like, I found Instagram, and I was like, oh look, this is a thing. Like, other people do it, and dude, some people are just so good at it. And what's funny is I remember doing it at the time and doing it on my phone, and just like thinking, I remember thinking my photos like, man, this is so rad, this is so good. And go back, I would never show anybody a bunch of those photos now because it's not even, whatever. And I'm much more critical of my stuff now, and
Hmm.
it's way better than that was then. But it's you grow, and it's I've been in practice with it now for like 14 years maybe.
Hmm.
um and I think what made me really start enjoying it was I opened myself up to criticism from people who really did know what they were
Yeah,
doing. And I
yeah.
think in the
That's how you
beginning,
learn. I think.
yeah, I think I was a little more sensitive to that in the beginning, thinking like, oh well, how come nobody thinks my stuff's as good as whatever. And then you start to realize like, no, people really put like effort and stuff into their photos, and there's a lot that you can learn. And I think once I kind of like put ego aside
Hmm.
and really just started listening to what other people were telling me that could improve my photo and not taking that personally,
Hmm.
um, it really opened up a whole new world for me. And I really started enjoying it more. And I
Hmm.
started looking at it as a challenge because, and again, everybody gets something different out of this hobby, and everybody has different methods. A lot of people like to, they superimpose effects and stuff. And at the end of the day, it's all about whatever's making you enjoy taking the photos.
Hmm.
So if you want to like,
Keep it fun.
superimpose lasers and stuff on there, that's awesome, man. I'm
Hmm.
not, I told you earlier, I'm not very like a good tech person. So for me to like sit there and try to figure out how to like superimpose like flames and magical effects I'm not very good at that.
Yeah.
So I almost took it as a personal challenge to how can I create these lighting effects and these magic effects like practically, and there's groups out there like dedicated to that stuff. The ACBA community, like
Hmm.
that's what they were really started on was, practical effects. The way it looks on your camera roll is the way it looks in person.
Hmm.
I like optical illusions. That's why I always post like behind the scenes photos and videos so people could see like nothing is superimposed on here. Like
Hmm.
everything here I did, you using something, and it's a personal thing, and I've had a lot of fun with that. That to me has become the funnest part. It's like challenging myself with that. What do I want to do today? And going out there doing it, and you know any type of positive reactions I get is a bonus.
Absolutely. Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's usually an hour or two out of my week where I kind of just get to decompress. My kids are at school. It's the one day I have where I'm home in the morning and nobody's home, and it's just me time. I put some music on YouTube to set the mood. Well, the Baldur's Gate soundtrack, or
There you go.
The Witcher, whatever sets the mood that day. Sometimes I listen to modern music with it,
Hmm.
whatever, and kind of just like veg out and fall into that world for a little bit, escape in there for a little while.
Absolutely. So we're at an hour 10. Do you still have a little bit more time, or you want to be continued?
I got a few minutes, man.
A few more minutes. Okay. Yeah. Because I wanted to go into your, the Mythic Enablers and Legions Con and all that stuff. So when you got to go, just let me know, and maybe we can do a part two sometime when you're
We can
free.
roll right into it.
But I wanted to ask about the photography. Um, I had a question about that. Oh, when you so a lot of times customizers will see a figure, like a new figure or something new comes out, and they see the figure as parts. So you're a photographer, do you see the figure and think this would be a cool thing to shoot, or this figure would be great? Do you start seeing like scenarios, or like, I can use this diode to film, to take pictures of this? Like, is your mind going in that, or are you just enjoying the figure?
No, immediately. Immediately. That's how I know when I really love a figure is like when something debuts and I immediately start thinking, how do I want to shoot that thing?
Mhm.
Knowing full well I'm not going to have it for like 2 years.
Right. That's the hard part. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
like that new Witcher trailer. I'm like, oh yes, I can't wait. Oh, now I gotta wait. Now
And
I know
sometimes I'll
about
see stuff like that, dude, and I'll be like, oh, that would be kind of cool to like incorporate into a photo, you know?
it. Mm,
Um, but now the gears immediately start turning, and just like anybody involved in the arts, everybody kind of develops their own style. A lot of my friends that take photos, I know without looking at their name who shot that photo for a lot of them, and a lot of those like I can usually tell a Trevor photo by looking
mhm,
at it before seeing it was posted by 1/6 shooter.
mhm.
I could tell Nate Strong before I even see his name on there. You develop a particular style, whether it's your
Right.
lighting, your colors, your staging, all that stuff. Um,
Yeah.
so I feel like a lot of my stuff does kind of look the same. I try to make it as varied as possible, but at the end of the day, I do feel like it's kind of the same thing. Like a lot of my friends can see my stuff, and they know I shot it before they see Michael Xavier
Hmm.
there.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. I love seeing. Yeah, I like action stuff, but I really enjoy pictures that tell stories. It's like, like the pensiveness of Krotos. You're thinking, what is he thinking? What's going on in his mind? But I enjoy that more, and so whenever I do go out and take a picture of something, I want it to tell something, or get your mind thinking, like, what's going on, what's happening in this, instead of just getting everything, like, having the whole thing delivered to you. I would rather it be like, it's telling a part of a story that kind of gets your imagination going a little bit. Like, that's interesting to me.
That's what I try to do with Thistlethorn, man.
Mhm.
I have, if you go back a couple months or whatever, I did a Thistlethorn photo where he's kind of like solo by himself, and that was very much the goal with that one. It was
I
very
remember
much
that
like
one.
a self pensive and
Yeah,
I always try to shoot like an alternate, like maybe change the position of the head or something like that. But that was a pretty deep photo to me. That was probably like maybe one of the other few that like I took that, and when I was done, I was like, all right, I'm happy with this one today. Like I like
I
this
wish
one.
I had that one. I don't have that one. I do have this, which,
My boys.
so before you go, tell me the story about Zindi and your connection to it, or him. Um, and I think I didn't see you, but you had cosplay.
I
Yeah,
did.
like I didn't see you, but like I saw a picture. I'm like, holy crap, that's freaking amazing. Can you tell people that don't know, like, what your connection is to? And while you're doing it, I'm gonna open my Zindi that I have not opened yet. So
Nice. Oh, is that your first Zenday that you're ever opening?
yes, yeah,
Oh, dude, he's so good. He's so good.
I love the
So
Wizards too. Samir is like my one of my top favorite.
yeah, they're awesome, man. I've been converted into a full on like convocation fan, man. Um, so we were at G-Con. It was the Poxus reveal, and I was sitting with my good friend Joe Russo, And Zende popped up on the screen, and he's like, "Oh man," he's like, "Mike," he's like, "that guy looks just like you." And I looked at him and I was like, "He's a bald guy with a beard." Like, I didn't really think too
Come
much
on,
into it.
that's everybody at Legion's Con, you know.
Right, like there's like 80% of us looking like that. But then my wife, who just happened to be streaming it in the background, like at home, I
Mm.
get a text on my phone. My phone starts blowing up. She's like, "Babe, did they make a figure of you?" And I'm like, "Get out of here." So it was just like kind of like that weird coincidence. I'll clarify for anybody listening right now. Zende was 1,000% not named for me. It's not a tribute. Um, but it was kind of like the ongoing joke there, that hey man, this figure like really resembles you. Um, Later on, after that figure would be released, Joe Russo would do a repaint of the head to kind of more match like my skin tones,
Mhm.
and it's a little it does kind of look much closer. I mean, he's
You're
he's
like,
pretty he's
Eric
pretty rad.
Treadway, what's going on here?
So we joked about that, and I was like, "Did maybe you like went home and like subconsciously like sculpted it after Legion's Con last year?" But
Right.
to me, it was still more of just like an in passing like joke, just like amongst close
Yeah.
friends, and the guys just kind of like started saying it like in comments in the cabal and stuff. And once that figure released, they kind of like made that joke a few more times, and everybody else in the cabal or a lot of people kind of started running with it too, and they were like, oh, it does, because really, I mean, like I said, bald head with a beard, it's very close. But even like the graying in there,
Yeah.
it is similar. um so that was the connection to that figure. And when we left Legion's Con last year, Noah says to me, he's like, "Well, you know what you got to do next year, right?" He's like, "You got to cosplay as Zende." And I'm not a cosplayer. Like, it's not my thing. I really don't feel. I I like to lay in the back and be quiet. I don't like putting myself out there. But he's
That's
like,
a
"You got to
DM
do it,
thing,
man."
You don't need the
Yeah, yeah,
spotlight,
yeah. Exactly. But he's like, "You got to do it." So he kind of like talked me into it. I found a lot of the parts, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do about the boots, and I don't know what I'm gonna do about the gauntlets. And he's like, well, he's like, just ask Maverick. He's like, Maverick is an outstanding fabricator. And I was
I
like,
didn't
well,
know that. I had no idea that.
I'd seen his Aether. He did the Aether mask. He's really really talented dude. But I didn't have a personal relationship with him
Right.
actually, and I definitely knew the name. I knew who he was. I did remember seeing him at the con, but I didn't even remember what he looked like. Like we didn't really have like a one-on-one
Hmm.
time. So I was like, I don't really know him. He's like, nah, he's cool, man. He's like, I'll message him with you and talk to him. So we messaged him. He was really really receptive to it. Um, and he's like, yeah, he's like, I'll make them for you. And that was pretty much almost, I guess, a couple weeks after Legion's Con had happened. So he had, the whole year to go and fabricate those things. We talked over the course of the next year. And the funniest part was that this year he brought them with him to the con. I went and I bought all the other costume pieces. I do want to make it a little bit more accurate next year. Like, I'd like to get like the chest armor closer in color to the figure and stuff.
Hmm.
But we were at intern for a day, and he's calling my name. He's like, Mike. He's like, Mike. But because I didn't have that visual reference, I didn't know that it was him. So it was
Yeah.
almost like a weird, awkward. And then it kind of like hit me. I was like, oh, I was like, Maverick, what's up, man? And he did a killer job, man. I mean, to me, the boots and the gauntlets are really what kind of like tied everything together.
So what parts did he do? He did.
So if you look at my gloves, if you look at the wrist gauntlets
Uh-huh.
itself, and if you look at the greaves, like the shin armor, he did those, and those go
Wow.
over the boots that I was wearing.
You
So
found the perfect color too of the shirt and the pants.
the
Or,
shirt, the pants were good. The armor, to me, like the armor is really close, but the coloring is. I want to see if I can get that painted up somehow,
oh
make it a
man,
little bit more accurate.
I love this already, dude.
How cool is that guy, right?
Man,
It's a battle mage, man. You can't go wrong.
I love it. I love it, dude. I can't believe I haven't opened this yet.
Me either.
What's wrong
Me
with
either.
me?
He's
Yeah,
he's one of the coolest ones, dude.
I've got like three, and I just have been busy. I used to travel for work, and I bought all of Poxis, but didn't open them for almost 6 or 7 months. But man, I regret this. This is a beauty.
And they give
I
you the
love the
display
blue.
options, right? So you get the powered up head also, which was
Yeah,
something we really weren't getting like prior to this. So they did it for Samir, they did it for Zende. You get an expressive face with Arizak. So that was really cool.
yeah.
Fast forward to this year, they did the reveal for this year's exclusives, for Chris and George at the studio.
Mm.
And Jeremy's having his show. He's got Mythic Conversations going on. And they already had the reveal that they were going to use the Zende head, and it was going to be repainted, like with the white beard, so you can make like another monk character. And on his show, it was the coolest thing. My phone starts blowing up. I got Noah blowing up my phone. He's like, dude, he's like, you're watching Jeremy's show. He's like, he just said like they're going like in his head canon, like they're gonna now name that figure Brother Xavier the Enabler. And I was like, what? That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. So
That's huge, man. I mean, that's what an honor, you know.
well, even the
That
way he went about and he said it, he goes, he goes, it was kind of a missed opportunity. He goes, the Zende head really does resemble him so much. He's like, it was a missed opportunity to not make that a tribute. So you know what? We'll use this head and we'll unofficially call it Brother Xavier the Enabler. And I was like, you know what? Works for me.
yeah,
Works for me.
I'll take it. And what a figure too, man. Damn.
Oh, he's rad, dude. He's rad.
Yeah.
You're not gonna see me running around the con shirtless though.
I mean,
It's not in the cards.
it could happen, a couple of drinks, you never know.
Listen, go back about 10 years, and that would have been a little more likely.
Yeah.
I got my post baby bod.
Right? You got the dad bod going.
Yeah.
Well,
Good.
I'm gonna let you go tonight. I hope that you would, come back for maybe a part 2 and we can talk about enablers and
I'd love to get the guys on for that one. I would
sure.
love to do that.
Sure. I mean, more pressure for me. I don't know if I can entertain or ask all the questions and be an
Those guys entertain. Let them entertain you. Joe
Yeah,
will show up with his crazy
I'll ask
glasses.
one question and let them go. I've known Noah though since before
It's only Mesco, right?
Yeah, we were Mezco guys, and I'm like, dude, how come you didn't tell me about it? He's like, I don't know, I didn't never thought about it. I'm like, God damn, I could have been Kickstarter Greg, but I'm glad to be here now. And it was just, I was like, whoa, Noah, I didn't know, like, this is a whole community thing. So I got to run into him last year at Legion's Con and hang out in person. So that was sweet. I never thought that I would, know him personally, and then to know him,
world, right?
Right? Yeah, in the toy community. But anyways, thank you so much, and I do hope you come back. If not, if you can't wrangle them, then come back yourself, and we'll talk more about photography, and I'll show more pictures, and we'll go into other stuff that maybe you collect, and we can branch off and all that. But I appreciate you so much, man.
I genuinely appreciate you having me on here, man. Thank you so much for asking and inviting me to be on your show, dude.
Anytime, dude. Anytime. I had a great time, but weekends, let's do some family time, we'll do that too. But I appreciate you, man, and have a good weekend and happy holidays. And thank you very much, dude.
Same to you, man. Be safe.
You too, man. Take care, everyone. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Happy holidays. Remember, friends, to always have fun, be curious, share, and enjoy what this line has to offer. Come for the toys, but stay for the friends. Good night, and thank you very much.